As mentioned before, I spoke with Speaker Johnson about President Trump's criticism of Jay Powell. Let's listen. There is a central bank in our country. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah.
How comfortable or uncomfortable are you, Mr. Speaker, with the president's repeated denunciations and jawboning, and that's putting it mildly, of the Fed Chair Jerome Powell?
Well, I understand the president's frustration. I do believe that he should reduce interest rates, and it's really too much power to be held in the hands of one person or a board, and he has a board. But it is what it is. That's our system. But right now, homeowners...
Firing him would be dangerous to confidence in the American system, would it not?
Yeah, I'm not even sure clearly what the legal parameters are of that. But I will say this. His term ends soon in a matter of months.
May of next year.
Yes, and it's a rocky road for him between now and then. I do believe a lot of economists will say when the economy is hot, when it's running, and ours is, and we're ramping up lots of great developments, that is not a time for you to reduce interest rates. But I think desperate times call for desperate measures. And right now, in housing, for example, new data came out today. There's just a glut in the housing market because people cannot afford to get into a new home right now. And if you reduce the rates just a small percentage, you can solve that problem. And I think that and other large purchases, I think that would be a big thing for the economy, and I think he ought to duly consider that. It would save the nation a lot of money, and it would give a lot more people more opportunity.
You've heard all year long the tariff conversation. How do you assess it now?
Well, I've been involved in the tariff conversation, not just heard it. But look, I think...
You know what I'm talking about.
Of course, yeah. I think it's going to settle out. I've always considered myself...
The Treasury Secretary said today a one-time increase from tariffs is not inflationary, by definition. If it happens once, it's not inflationary. It's just an adjustment to the economic structure.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I do, and inflation is cooling. The sky was going to fall, everybody told us, and it hasn't. The tariff policies have actually brought in a lot of new revenue, and by some estimates, $300 billion.
That's how it pencils out for the year.
Yeah, and that's a lot of money, and we can use that well, and we can use it to get the country out of debt. So on balance, that's a great thing. I think what the president did, he sees lots of blind spots that others don't, and this is one of those things. He's been talking about tariffs since he was being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, back in the 80s. But what happened was there was a lot of countries that were being unfair. We had unfair trade practices with other countries, unfair agreements. And the president was offended by that and said, we got to fix it. And he's the only one bold enough to have done it. I was in the Oval Office last night, Garrett, when the Japanese delegation, I keep doing that, Mr. Garrett, our Major. I was in the Oval Office last night when the Japanese delegation was there to negotiate their big trade agreement. And the president called me in. I was outside in the waiting area, and he said, bring the speaker in. And he said, Mr. Speaker, what do you think about this deal? And they're sitting there having the negotiation with translators and the whole thing. It was a masterclass. I mean, he is really the king of the art of the deal. He wrote the book. And to watch him handle that situation and get us to this, what may be one of the largest trade agreements of all time, to watch it live and see it happen in that way was really something. And it's going to be great for the country. He's the force multiplier for the U.S. economy. He's the one that is getting us to these new trade agreements with other countries, and it's far more fair for us and advantageous for American consumers. I think that's good policy.
Should Congress be involved in authorizing and approving these trade deals? The administration says Congress doesn't need to be a part of it at all. Historically, it has been.
Well, it depends on how you look at history. I mean, traditionally, Congress has given a lot of latitude to the executive to negotiate these things, and if the executive sees that there's a trade imbalance, they have traditionally had the authority to do that. I'm a jealous guardian of Article 1, and we are the first branch of government for a reason, and that's how the founders intended it. I'm a constitutional law attorney. I take this stuff very seriously. If I feel like the executive is stepping out of their lane, then I will suggest a course correction. I would do it with honey, not vinegar, to begin, but I have a very close relationship with the president. We talk constantly all the time about these things, and I watch it very closely.
Kelly O'Grady, I'm happy to say, is back with us. Also, I'm happy to say I'm joined by senior writer at Barron's, Martin Baccardax. Martin, I want to ask you first, for this assessment from the Speaker, echoing the White House, the tariffs are non-inflationary, and this Japan trade deal, not only the tariff rate, but this $550 billion of investment from Japan is a net plus for America.
It's so difficult to be quite honest, Major. I think we're looking at a situation where we don't know enough detail about the $550 billion investment, what it entails, over what time period it is meant to be allocated. So it's difficult to give a perfect assessment on that. What I can say is that you have negotiated a trade deal with an economy that is, by definition, one of the oldest and most ageist in the world. From a consumer perspective, it's not the silver bullet, I think, that it might have been in the 1980s when Japan's industrial might was the envy of the world. It's simply not that case anymore. And if you look deeply into the details, they're not particularly good for American car makers. Effectively, Major, it is cheaper now to build a car in Japan and sell it in the United States than it is to build a car in the United States and sell it in the United States. I'm not sure that the Auto Workers Union thought that that was going to be the reality when they supported all these talks a few months ago.
And Kelly, that raises an important point about market access, which is a very big part of the Washington and White House explanation for why these trade deals are valuable. But there's always some devil in those details about what that access is and what we will actually gain as a country from it.
Yeah, it's kind of
No,
what
I
are you
think
getting?
that's right.
Martin, hold on. That's for Kelly.
It's sort of what you're getting versus what you're giving, of course, in that particular deal, as well as other ones that have been announced, like Indonesia and the Philippines. The president has touted that American farmers in particular are going to have access to sell into these markets, which is good for them. I can tell you from talking to farmers, they are very excited about some of these deals. That trend started with the UK, having more access to that. That being said, sort of this so what for American consumers, businesses are going to have to pay that tariff when a good comes into the U.S. if they're importing from other places. And every single deal that we have seen done in these recent weeks has meant that 10% tariff that's been across the board while we have all of these reciprocal tariffs on pause is actually higher. And that's where, when we get back to the Federal Reserve conversation of interest rates, that's why they're waiting and seeing, because this next 3 to 6 months, as these tariffs creep up to 15%, 30%, depending on the country, that's going to be really tough for businesses to absorb. And it's likely going to get passed on to you and me. And whether it's a one-time increase or more, that's where we have to wait and see.
Kelly O'Grady, Martin Baccardax, thank you very much. I appreciate it.